Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Planet Among the Stars, the astrology forecast with Avalon Rises. I am Dr. Jane, and I am here with another kind of longer episode today. There's so many connections between a lot of the astrology phenomena that are happening right now. So it's really lending itself to these sort of combined episodes. And today we are going to be looking at the energies of the sun entering into Virgo. So we're changing that filter, the energetic filter on the sun, as well as the planet Uranus has gone retrograde. So we now have all of the outer planets in retrograde. So really big collective stuff coming up and going on. And then as well, this weekend, we've got the Virgo new moon. So all of these energies are actually really weaving together. So I'm going to talk about them each kind of separately, but also really highlighting the connections between them. And first to understand that we have made a shift in the way that the energy is filtering through from the sun, right? So remembering how in the past I've sort of described that, when the sun enters a different sign, a different constellation in the sky, that we kind of change the filter over the lens of the light, and that this is going to then touch every aspect, because the sun's light touches every aspect of our lives. And it's going to kind of change that overtone. And so, I talked about that when the sun transitioned into Cancer, but then also into Leo. And so now we have made another one of those transitions. The wheel is turning, and we are now sitting with the sun in Virgo. And Virgo is a very different energy than Leo. And we are progressing through the elements as well as sitting on the cusp of a season. So we are now in an earth sign. So Virgo is an earth sign, but it is the mutable earth sign. So remember how I mentioned that the mutable signs sit at the changes of the seasons. So Virgo is the transition sign from summer to fall, and is associated really with a lot of harvest energy because of that. And so we are now, starting to reap a little bit of what we've sown, as well as, this is also shown in the archetypal symbol of Virgo. It is often described as the Virgin or Maiden, but it's actually the Greek goddess Astraea, who was the last Olympian to leave Olympus at the end of the era in ancient Greece. And so she's actually associated as a goddess with a deep love of earth, because she was actually the last of the Olympians to leave. And so she sits, you see the symbol Virgo sitting, Astraea sitting on a throne. And so this is also, again, that very earth kind of harvest goddess energy. Sometimes people associate this with Demeter, the Greek goddess of the grain, as well. And as the mutable earth sign, Virgo is the most flexible of the earth signs. So it is the most adaptable of the earth signs. So all of the mutable energies, all the mutable signs are most capable of, adapting their energy to the circumstances that are around them. And so, in this way, it's great for us because this makes the energy of Virgo very accessible and very easy to apply in a lot of different areas of our lives. This is an excellent energy then to leverage for getting organized, and grounding changes in your routine, changes into new habits, and cleaning your mental, energetic, and especially your physical space. You can really bring this Virgo energy and adapt it into all of the areas of your life. And so This is also kind of signified by the fact that Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury. And this is what really adds to that lightness, that flexibility, and also a mental sharpness. So Virgo, even though it's an earth sign, does have a mental aspect to it, an intellectual aspect to it, because of this association with the energy of Mercury. It's this ruling planet. And so you can really see the combination of these energies reflected in the virtues of Virgo energy. And these virtues include logic, right? So organization in the mind, right? So a big hallmark of Virgo energy is organization. And because of that association with the planet Mercury, being ruled by the planet Mercury, we can adapt that earth energy to the mental sphere, that mutable earth energy into the mental sphere. And so logic is a hallmark of Virgo energy, organized, both mental organization as well as physical organization, systematic, right? Humorous as well. Virgos have a humor in that energy, which is also really related to that planet of Mercury, as well as then that earth element coming back in to be detail oriented. So there's a precision factor in the Virgo energy. And so these are all of the virtues that are going to be really accessible to you during this time. And when you are accessing these virtues, you do want to be aware, however, of the vices of Virgo that could be challenging during this time to you, particularly perfectionism. So Virgo energy, because of that detail-oriented, precision, organized nature, it can lean out of balance into perfectionism. And that can be a challenge because we are imperfect by definition, always. And so, on the one hand, you can use this to see where your life can improve, but also still make sure to give yourself grace and understand that you are always a work in progress. Another one of the vices of Virgo energy can be obsession. And similarly, that can really combine with that perfectionism. Hypercritical is also a concern. And being distracted by detail. Okay, right? So on the one hand, there's a huge benefit to being detail oriented and being systematic because you can have really high quality work. But perfectionism, being distracted by detail, and obsessive work will actually slow you down and bog you down instead of having you progress. So it's a balance, right? And it's always trying to keep that balance and watch for these characteristics as they are going to, kind of be tipping either way, and watching in your life when those vices show up, because that's going to be a map for you to your healing. And this particular energy is coming at a really good time in our collective progression, right? Because if we think about everything that's been going on this year, starting with that first eclipse season, moving through the retrogrades, we are being shown where we need to dismantle and where we need to rebuild and build new, what we need to change in our lives and what we need to let go of, and what we need to then create in its place. And so this Virgo energy can really be leveraged during this time to help you in that process, but only if you're willing to let go. If you try to apply this Virgo energy to holding on to the structures that are not serving you, it's going to be difficult. And it's going to be especially difficult because of the Uranus retrograde that just started. So, while Virgo can be a really powerful energy for grounding into reality, the changes that you have been, learning you need to make in your life, and the progress that you have made over this light season, through forming new habits and organizing your space and your time, it can also provide, a challenge in that you don't want to get caught up in the perfectionism or the small details, which will actually stop you from moving forward. And you don't want to be applying this energy to holding on to what you need to let go. And this is, as I mentioned, really, really, really going to be enhanced by the Uranus retrograde energy. So Uranus retrograde started this past Wednesday. So the retrograde for Uranus runs from August 24th until January 22nd. So Uranus is a very slow moving planet. And this retrograde is going to be entirely in the sign of Taurus. So another Earth energy sign. However, Taurus is, as I mentioned, in a previous video where I discussed Taurus energy, Taurus is really about our physical world, security, abundance, also our physical pleasure. It's ruled by the planet Venus. And so there's a lot of sensual nature to Taurus. As I've mentioned, we've had a lot of action in this sign this year and this is really emphasizing our collective need to really reevaluate how we deal with security, physical security, resource security, abundance, finances, as well as the role that pleasure and enjoyment plays in our lives collectively. Because on the one hand, there's this element of, well, yeah, we need to work to provide, right? But our culture has historically really struggled with workaholic aspects to it, overwork, not following your joy, not putting your labor into what you're actually here to do, and not making space for abundance in that way, and instead sacrificing your actual abundance for the perception of security. And Uranus, as a planet, is, I call Uranus the rule breaker of the planets. Uranus is a wrecking ball, and Uranus is here to shake things up and to really take down any structures that are no longer serving in our lives. And again, this is a collective planet, in the collective. So keep in mind that we now have Saturn retrograde, which is Saturn is the planet of order and is oppositional energetically to Uranus. And so now Uranus is also going retrograde. So we are really also getting tested in that balance between letting go, breaking down, and deliberate forward action. Responsibility from Saturn, and then what do we need to let go of in order to then build what is true to our mission and to where we are moving into this new paradigm. And so, both of these planets are also simultaneously retrograde in Earth signs. So Saturn has moved into Capricorn in its backward motion, started in Aquarius. And now Uranus is going to be in Taurus for the whole retrograde. So we've got a lot of Earth energy going on right now. In fact, all three Earth signs are doing something massive. And so this is really calling us to look at our physical reality. How are things manifesting in the physical in our lives? This is asking us to examine these physical systems, the systems we have built that control our physical existence, health and wealth in particular. And so, when these themes of work, overwork, career, and enjoyment, they're going to be very prominent during this time. And remembering that Jupiter is also retrograde, Jupiter is calling us to see where our joy lies in our lives. And so now all of this is going to weave together to really show us where we are sacrificing our joy and our passion and our pleasure for drudgery and a sense of security. But I'm going to talk about that more in a second because it's not real security. right? And our tolerance for doing that, our tolerance for sacrificing our joy and our true purpose in order to maintain a false sense of security is really going to decrease during this time. Uranus is not here for that. So this is kind of like that extra final pressure. So it started off with, Saturn being like, hey guys, check out your relationship with authority and structures in your life and where it's keeping you from being authentic. And then, Neptune came in and was like, hey, why don't you have some intuition around this and feel out what's not working? And then Jupiter came in and was like, hey, this is what's blocking you from your joy, guys. And now Uranus is here to like really turn up that heat. And our willingness to sacrifice these things in order to have the perception of physical security is going to become really, really, really less tolerable as the months wear on with this retrograde. And so, these are those Taurian themes of security, enjoyment, abundance, and we're going to be getting really tested around the integrity of those systems in our lives. And what this is really encouraging us to do is to let go. Okay, so what's going to make this retrograde easier for you? Well, if you've already been letting go, if you've listened to these lessons already, you're going to have an easier time. If you haven't been and the pressure gets really hot, you're going to need to let go. It's just the way it's going to be. Or you can suffer through, but that's not fun. Really using this as a time to let go, because if you try to hold on to something that is blocking you in your life and in your progression, it's going to become really uncomfortable at this time. And because the Uranus energy is all about liberation from that which is actually holding us back. And a lot of the time that liberation it always first has to happen in the mind. And so when, this retrograde collectively is really here to highlight our corruptions around this relationship with the earth, with our bodies, with each other, right? And honestly, collectively, we've got a lot of misalignments there. We don't treat the planet particularly well. I'm gonna be real about that. Most of us don't treat our bodies particularly well, right? And collectively, we don't treat each other particularly well. And so this retrograde is really going to lower the tolerance for those things, because we're going to really need to shift those to move into this new paradigm energy. Because having a healthy relationship with earth and health and abundance and enjoyment is critical to the new paradigm. And so, we can consider things like the frequency with which our society prioritizes money over the environment, or prioritizes money over joy, right? Or prioritizes money over people and the planet. And this is not actually in alignment with the real priorities of life, right? And so this core issue is going to be present in all of us in some way, and it's really going to be what we're called to deal with during this time in our lives, and then by shifting ourselves, moving the whole collective forward, right? And this is where it comes to asking yourself and seeing, because what this retrograde is going to show you is, where are you prioritizing the illusion of security over your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health? And why do I say it's the illusion of security? Because if you are in a situation that is not providing for your physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental health, it is not safe. By definition, if you are in a situation that is not providing for those things in your life, it is not a safe or secure situation. It is an illusion of security. And yet, so many of us stay in situations jobs, relationships, dynamics of all kinds that ask us to sacrifice our health and our joy for the idea of security. But if we are not healthy, by definition, we are not secure and we are not safe. And this is going to be a huge, huge theme of this retrograde. So this is why letting go is going to be so important. And so when we think about this then, to weave back in this Virgo energy, because that new moon in Virgo is coming up here. The energy is already open. The new moon is early Saturday morning, in the middle of the night between Friday and Saturday. And so that energy is really already here. And the Virgo new moon in general is going to be calling us to kind of like get ourselves together, get our lives together, get stuff organized and cleaned up. But keep in mind that also new moons are the death and rebirth part of the moon cycle. And so this is when you can let go and you can build something new. You can plant the seeds for what you want to bring in. So this Virgo new moon can either be really strongly enhancing your progression, or it can also be a struggle. And it's going to depend on how much you're letting go. And if you are trying to use the Virgo energy in opposition to the Uranus energy, if you are trying to use the Virgo energy to clean up, reorganize, rebuild structures that are not actually in alignment, but that are giving you the illusion of security, it's going to be frustrating. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But if instead you tap into this Virgo energy and in this new moon, you use this to let go of the old structures in your life that are not serving you and plant the seeds for new organizational ways to actually then build something new in your life that is in alignment with what these other retrogrades have really been showing you, with what the lessons you've been learning over this last season are, then it can be a really powerful new moon. So this is definitely a new moon when releasing rituals are going to be really, really excellent. It's a lot of earth energy right now. So fire is an appropriate element to bring in. It's been a while, probably, since most of us have done a good burn. And so if you have things you need to release, burning is a really good alchemical way to transform and transmute energies. Fire is the ultimate alchemical transformer. And of course, remembering that there is safety first here, because also some of us have been in really dry environments. And so we want to be really, 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 really careful with however we're using fire in this moment. But from an energetic perspective, if we can be safe in the physical using fire to transform, this is a great time to do it, to help you release and then transform into the light old structures in your life that are no longer serving your progression. And then a lot of intention setting is going to be really good, as well as meditation for clarity, because I'm describing these things and I'm making them sound kind of clear cut, but I'm going to be real. When you're living through them, it's probably felt pretty messy and it's probably felt pretty mixed up. And being able to get clarity around what do I need to let go and what do I need to bring in, that is a great use of Virgo energy at this new moon. Remember, because Virgo has that energy of that mental clarity, logical thought, systematic understanding of detail. And so this new moon is a great time to do some meditation, get the mind clean, okay, right? Clean up on a micro scale so that you can then start to make shifts on the macro scale. So with this Virgo new moon energy, I recommend focusing on, like I said, releasing meditation so you can get that mental clarity, tapping into that Virgo energy for mental clarity, as well as your microphysical, really nurturing and cleaning in your microphysical space. Use this clean your house. Tap into this Virgo new moon, get a good house cleaning going. And that can be a very meditative mental clarity process as well. I can move the energy, move the earth energy by bringing and moving, cleaning, moving items around your space, rearranging your space. It's a new beginning. It's a clean slate. That's a very excellent way to work with the energy, and it will also help you discern and then get clarity in your life as well when you have a clear, organized physical space. It's also a nice way to focus the energy and avoid the overwhelm of the global issues, right? Because the tendency is going to be to focus this energy outward into really big areas of your life. And if you are then trying to cling to something that is not serving you in your big area of your life, it's going to be frustrating. Well, so reel it in, focus it inward, focus it on your small space. And when you are nurturing your small physical existence in your house, with your focusing on caring for your physical vessel, your body, your house, and then you will have more clarity in the larger big picture understanding of what's going on as well. So, in terms of how to weave this Virgo new moon energy into the retrograde that just started, it's really, really, really about taking care of yourself and your physical vessel and getting that clarity and that organization in your space, as without, so within, and in your mind, as within, so without. So I hope that this helped. We are at Avalon Rises doing a special new moon max meditation on Sunday morning to provide an opportunity to tap into these Virgo new moon energies, get that mental clarity, get a little bit of a clean slate going on in the mind. And if you would like the link to that, it's an online meditation. Feel free, drop a comment, visit us on our Instagram page, or sign up for our email list, because we always send out our max meditation links in our email list. So I hope that this helped you see kind of how all of these energies are combining right now, why we are driving forward. It can feel like chaos, but recognizing that there's a much bigger picture going on, a higher purpose to all of this. We are letting go of old structures collectively and individually that no longer serve us, that are giving us a false sense of security while not actually providing for what we really need in our lives. And that if we can kind of zoom out a little bit, get that higher perspective, use the new moon to let go and plant seeds for where we're going, maybe we can come to a little bit more peace amidst the storm, right? So I hope that this helps, and I look forward to seeing you guys in meditation on Sunday.